think we can probably do the minutes, and in deference to Greg, who I'm sure will be here momentarily, won't do any other business for a couple minutes till he gets here, but we can certainly begin to work through the minutes. We have our Monday, May 16th. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept those minutes as recorded.
I'm going to wait for Greg to sit down. He'll probably second that.
Which minutes are we talking about?
May 16th, 2022, Greg, the first ones. And then we have also some May 16th, 2022, and we have some executive session minutes from the same time, but that would be the next motion, and those would be not for release.
I only have a problem with one of the sets of minutes.
Okay.
Sessions. It has to be the 16th, and I missed it. Right.
Got it?
Yeah, so it would be the May 16th meetings.
Okay.
After we had a discussion that's not in here about the need for these two personnel in the fire department and the lack of any demonstration of need.
I remember the benefits.
We had a discussion about we were going to ask the chief to come in and show us some evidence that the revenues generated by more full-time firefighters was supported by the ambulance. Otherwise, that's why we've never done it before. And we've been asking these follow up on that.
So do you think there was a motion made that's been omitted here?
No, but there's discussion from the meeting that should be, I think, in that as well.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, okay.
There's further discussion after that motion.
So the discussion that's there is not complete from your perspective?
After the motion, we did have another discussion.
Okay.
So there should be further discussion after the motion.
Right. As you recall, I said I normally stay quiet on these, but I can't because they just went straight through without any discussion and any demonstration.
Mhm.
We've never just created any jobs in the town willy-nilly like that. Just to throw two jobs out there because someone says, yeah, there are two more employees. We've never done it without.
Do you have specific recommendation to add here, or are you just bringing this up so that we can put it on the agenda for next time?
Well, Sandy can get it out of the recording and put her best. I'm not going to tell her how to dig. She does a great job of these, but she can certainly pick out what she thinks is relevant to add.
So you just want me to add in that further discussion of the two people?
Right, about, that I brought up concern about, the two new hires without some sort of demonstration that it was justified. I mean, we don't just say, you know what, let's just hire 3 more assistants for Jessica and Sandy. If they want 2 more assistants, we'll just give them 2 more.
Okay, so basically, we will make a motion to approve those minutes or
No.
with that change?
Table these minutes
Table.
until they're adjusted.
Great.
So we just table this second.
So I move to strike my motion. Yes.
Well, you can leave the motion on the table and it can be voted down.
Yeah.
So we have a motion made, I will second it. Those in favor?
Nay.
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 Okay, that's easier than tabling it and getting it off the table again. Okay, so,
We can remove
so we will, do take care of that for us, Cindy, for the next round. The executive session, approved for, but not for release.
I would move to accept those meeting minutes as recorded.
on both the May 23rd and May 16th executive sessions.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the May 23rd meeting open minutes.
I move to accept the open meeting May 23rd minutes as written and released.
We have a second.
The motion?
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So Sandy, just with that one modification, and you take care of that for the next meeting, please?
Yep.
Thank you. We do have we haven't dealt with public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
Yes. I've come here for the public comment concept here. As everybody knows, I'm new, I thought they know, I've been walking around with this sign at the farmer's market for past 2 weekends. I'll be there tomorrow. And it's two-sided. And I've received lots of comment from walking around, which I didn't really think that I'd be a sounding board for the town, but people share it with me. One of the most important concerns is signage, or as you guys call a message board. And currently, we have 2 message boards in the town. We have one that's owned by the police department that is used for safety purposes, and we have one that's at the DPW that everybody, from what I've been may be made to understand, is defective, it doesn't work, they don't know how to work it, the battery costs too much, they're not sure. We've been having a lot of discussion. Now, it would be really nice if we didn't have to wait for the police department, although it was very handy, to get finished use of their sign in order to tell the people that we're giving away tons of money at the annual town meeting, and they need to be there, and they need to know when it is, and they need to know what time it is. And I know it's probably on the website someplace, and it's probably on Facebook or something, but the placement of the sign is a very much concern. So I'm recommending the following. First of all, down there is nice, however, when you come in from the east and the sun's out, you can't necessarily see it. When you come from the west, you don't see it at all because you just go right past. If you come from the other direction, you may see it. So we had for years a message board, whatever they call it, or a sign, at the deer weighing station. So I'd like the following. I'd like the sign moved from where it is and be put in the deer weighing station, and that would be considered a place for message boards for the town of Barre until we decide to have different kinds of message boards, and that could be there. And also, as part of this suggestion and direction, is I'd like this to be a component of finding out what's going on with the other sign, making sure that we can use it all the time when we're not hampered by only one sign that needs to be used for safety. And in order to accomplish this, I'm going to ask one of the selectmen, hopefully somebody has thought
3 minutes, Chair.
Yeah.
has thought that this might be a good idea, to make a motion, and I'm hoping that somebody else seconds it, and put, however you do it, and get it done yesterday, not really yesterday, but get it done as soon as possible, because we have a town meeting, an annual town meeting, which we only have once a year, other than a special annual town meeting, and this is a very important thing for democracy.
Okay, I
would hope you do this.
I think we got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, and thank you for
And can
doing.
anybody make a motion, maybe?
I think
For
we.
point of information on that, what discretion do we have over the location of those, whether it's the police station sign?
Pretty much anything you want.
Yeah,
So we do have the authority to make
Yes.
well,
something
yeah,
along those
I don't
lines?
think that, I guess it's up to, the police department and the fire department move those around, so I guess, as long, I don't think they're unreasonable to work with.
No,
so.
not at all.
And then my understanding is that it's going to be moved is rotated among locations, is that correct?
No,
I mean, generally, we don't generally have it up unless there's a reason. I mean, because it's not a permanent sign. So most of the time it is stored at the public safety building when there is either a traffic safety issue, like the details that were going on in town, or, you know, parade, or the town meeting, then we'll put it where you want it.
Okay.
Traditionally, we put it down there because that seems to get the most exposure, but
I would move that it is appropriate to move it to in front of Barre Pizza for the remainder of the time that it's up.
we have a second?
Sure.
We have a second. And further discussion?
I did research a little into this with traffic volumes, and they would see a fair amount more
Uptown.
traffic. Also where it's been in the other location for a period of time. I don't see any reason not to rotate it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Done.
Does that include investigating the other sign that's at the DPW?
That was not included in the motion, but, you know, I'm sure we will take a look and see if we have
Because
two.
it's probably cheap money.
Okay, we're done.
Good.
Okay, with
It's
this.
probably cheap
Okay.
money to do it. that's
Yeah.
all.
Okay, moving on. Jessica, Town Administrator Report?
Thank you. So some updates from around town. We have the Barre Trails Committee gave me an update about 2 weeks ago about some new kiosks that Monty Tech created for the Barre Trails off of Town Farm Road that they've been working pretty diligently on. And these signs were paid for by the New England Mountain Biking Association. Between this New England Mountain Biking Association and the Barre Trails Committee, they've been very proactive about trying to get grants, and you know, they put a lot of man hours into maintaining those trails and trying to expand trail networks throughout town. So they are working with private property owners as well as myself to try and create more trails for people in the community to use. So I think this is a really great move for them to create some more publicity, and their next, you know, one of their next goals will be to create some expanded parking out in that area because they do see quite a bit of volume of traffic up there. So to be able to provide those folks a space to park would be, you know, their next goal. So I'm working on them with those discussions to see how we can make that happen. But I think it's, you know, really great that this recreational opportunity is being provided to our residents by our residents. There's a lot of residents in town who are doing all of the work on this. So props to them, and I appreciate their continued communication with me to keep me updated on what they're doing out there. Signage around town. So this discussion came up recently as far as signage, meaning like the sign outside of our building here, the Henry Woods building sign back in 2019. The select board gave the former town administrator permission to replace it with a sign that looks identical to the library sign. But because of turnover in the pandemic, the project was kind of left by the wayside. And a couple of weeks ago, the conversation stirred up again, and I followed up with Lyman Signs, who said that the sign had been made and he just needed to get the granite posts prior to installation. So I did follow up with him later last week to see if I could get an update on where we stand for installation timeline. But I think it would be a really good facelift for this building to get a new sign. A lot of people don't always realize where we are because our signage is not ideal. I also reached out to Paul Cranston from the Common Committee to discuss using the remaining funds to erect new signage on other commons around the community, including in Barre Plains, and placing a digital sign possibly in front of the Quabbin Plaza area. There's been discussions between the Quabbin Plaza area and this, you know, uptown here, but there's just a lot, you know, some opinions about where that should go. So I think the conversations can keep flowing, but I just wanted to get his opinion on if these funds could essentially be used outside of this central common area. And he said he's not opposed to the idea, but he's also working on trying to get some cosmetic repairs done to the commons uptown, including some of the rails, cobblestones, and lights on the common, with the remaining $24,000. Pivoting to our police department, the police department had some mountain bike training recently. Barre was the host location for probably 8 other police departments from around the state to get specialized training on using bicycles for police work. So I think that was a really great opportunity for them. And our police department uses bikes for events like Barre Scary and parades, and it's really good to have that type of transportation to help any officers who may traditionally be on foot. They might be able to maneuver a little bit better if they are on a bicycle. And also in conjunction with the police department, but what is not listed on this report is that the chief and I talked this morning about potentially moving the Michael Ryder Memorial, which is currently located on the Barre Plains Common. The chief would like to see that relocated to the public safety building because he was the longest serving chief in the department's history, and it would be a great location to permanently display the memorial. I think this would have to come to the select board for a vote. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention for just get some initial thoughts flowing. And, we would definitely be in contact with his family and let them know that, this is our intent with this because his family did purchase the memorial. But I think it would do, it would just be a better fit for it to be down at the public safety building. Also, I wanted to say a reminder about our Community Shred Day that is happening on June 25th. I received permission from the state to shred approximately 75 boxes worth of records that are no longer needed per the retention schedule. And this will free up a significant amount of space at the town hall in the center of town in the basement, as well as in our basement here at the Henry Woods building.
What's the date for that again?
June 25th, and this is open to all residents in the community. So any kind of old records, financial records, anything that people in the community have been meaning to shred are welcome to come to the Henry Woods building. And it's June 25th, a Saturday, from I think it's 9 to noon. We have that happening.
Great.
And again, that is being funded through a grant that the Board of Health receives every year to do these type of eco-friendly, recycling-friendly events and investments in the community. And lastly, there's been a lot of budget discussions lately, and between the schools and now I've been in several conversations regarding the Rutland Regional Dispatch with the Rutland Town Administrator as well as the Hubbardston Town Administrator to basically discuss the overall financial management of the dispatch and to overall improve communications between the communities. So that's been kind of a very rampant given that town meeting is next week. Some of the, and Hubbardston's town meeting is this week. So just given tomorrow, yeah, given some of the conversations that we've been having about some of the decisions that they've made and how we can further improve at how the communities work together on getting to a consensus on the budget and other financial management decisions that are made out there. So that's been a lot of the past week that I've been working on.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments? Hearing none, moving to Select Board Reports. Anyone have any information or concerns?
I'll just say I met with the fire chief today to go over what equipment we have, facilities, see some of the call, volumes, revenue and items of that nature to get an understanding of what it is they do.
Okay, thank you so much. I just have a few notes, just a thank you to the, not only the local Legion group and also the schools and also the DPW for all the work that they did to make the Memorial Day Parade and services pretty spectacular. We couldn't have asked for better weather. We couldn't have bought better weather. It was a wonderful day. I know the DPW had to mow on a Sunday afternoon. They did so without complaint and continue to help us and serve the Memorial Day people who are looking for a special day. I'd like to just thank also Senator Emeritus Stephen Brewer, who worked with the Legion and others to ensure that the Vietnam veterans were added to the monument in the park, in the North Park, and that was done on and dedicated and unveiled on Memorial Day. I know that there's been some conversation for a number of years to try to get that done, and I do thank him for his work on that. I also thank the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation for funding that particular endeavor. So it was a lot of people worked very hard to get a lot of little things done in that park, and I personally, but also as from the town's perspective, appreciate the work that was done. Also, in my work with as select board person, I spent a good deal of time getting the tour of the sewer plant, the laboratory, the pumps, the sludge at stage 1, the sludge at stage 2, the sludge when it's finally ready to go in a dumpster and go someplace else. Discussion about the particular project that's going to be moving forward, we hope, to kind of get the sewer treatment facility updated. There's certainly work to be done. And in addition to that, it was interesting to understand a little bit more about the amount of capacity that the plant has. It has quite a bit more capacity than we use. And the billing that goes to individual users, that's always a concern, our user fees and our rates. And our fees are a little on the high side because we don't maximize the plants. But that's really difficult unless we expand, where the pipes go. And basically, we're probably not ready to expand where the pipes go. We talked a little bit about Christian Hill, but after the engineers looked at the amount of ledge and topography and so forth, that was not considered a thing that we would... viable option. So at any rate, just, I do know a whole lot more about effluent, and I know a whole lot of how important the schools are. If we didn't have the schools to really push a little more effluent, that would be a problem. So, I know that we had conversations with the town of Hardwick and about sort of getting together, and that never went to fruition. And I think Hardwick is doing its own treatment facility update currently. If you try to drive through there, you can find that it's pretty challenging. Anyone else for reports? Greg, anything?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. I bring the board's attention to the letter from Mr. Murphy regarding public obscenity. Is it now acceptable in Barre? I agree certainly with his comments that we don't really have a right to tell people what they can put on a sign in front of their homes. We don't have to like it, but it is part of what is no law shall abridge the freedom of speech or or the press. So, any other comments on that? I know it's sort of in your area, John.
A few houses down.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe this board really has the authority to take any action, and if it did, I think the action we should take is to remove that authority.
Yeah.
But I
mean, he is sending his letter.
There's multiple locations around town. This isn't the only one.
I agree.
And there are things you're not going to like. There are Halloween decorations that scare my children more than that sign. And
yeah.
There's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
I respect their right to have it up by all means.
Yeah. And I agree with Mr. Murphy's decision to go to the paper with an editorial.
Yeah.
And so he is pursuing that. So
the one question I do want to bring up, when we receive correspondence like this, is it normal, would it be appropriate to notify people involved in these correspondence?
If we're going to discuss it, yes.
Okay.
That's why I don't like getting involved business discussion. Although we mentioned no names, so I have no objection to this point, but yes,
Okay.
it's
So-
exactly what we do before
Yeah.
we.
So at any rate, yeah, I would never use anybody's name, because as you point out, there are numerous, I think, things around the town, so. At any rate, moving on
Well,
from,
my concern already is if it's in our meeting, it's gonna be posted. This correspondence is not gonna be publicly posted, but it's been included in our meeting agenda. And I think it's
I can't
important.
hear you. I couldn't hear you.
I think it's important that if this is gonna be posted on our meeting agenda, that someone reach out to the people who have the sign and give them an opportunity to write a letter back in response, if they'd like, because we're now gonna publish one side of this, although we're not gonna get into it here, it's gonna be published, and I think that in itself is a mistake.
Can this be published with names redacted? Is that,
Mhm.
no, it can't?
I don't know, I would have to check with the attorney, but I don't think that this
If
is
the
something.
correspondence has already been put into our meeting, it shouldn't have been in the meeting. It should have,
Well, I
it should
just-
have received 2 weeks' notice
Mhm.
to let the people know this is gonna come up about their property before you even hit the table.
well,
But it's, the ship has sailed, I think we should reach out, I think we should reach out to the people at that address. I know them personally, and I think they should have the opportunity to write their own correspondence if they would like.
well, they can write it to us, it's really just information.
Right, but
I
it's,
mean, it makes no difference to us, we have no jurisdiction in this. The fact that the gentleman sent this letter to the board, that's his right.
Doesn't mean we have to put it
That's
on
his
the
right.
meeting and on the
Well.
minutes. It's just-
Well,
It is there, we can't change that. To that end, I support people's right to the freedom of speech. These people, especially I would say they're quite colorful in their daily life. They do fantastic decorations for all sorts of occasions in town. And they're, great town spirit, and they're really nice people. And, I won't say I disagree with the sentiment one bit, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of it. It's their right to say what they want to say.
And
It could
it's,
be any of our names up there, and that's their right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, no, and as neighbors, I've spoken with them too, and, and their side and opinion on things, and, I think it's been, it's something that if divisions continue, it could be, a challenging road for every town going forward, and hopefully we can all come together and,
There's a house 2 doors up that has the a flags with the same statement on it.
oh yeah,
So it's there, and someplace else too,
yeah,
right in the same neighborhood, so it's,
well, I'm sure if you truck around town, there's more than that,
I
so,
am sure.
so,
if you look for them, you'll find them, and that's everyone's,
I'm sure as people pay $5 a gallon for fuel, they start to,
start to see more stickers on the gas pumps.
yes, and have their own explanations and exclamations when they see such.
well, moving on to new business. We have the annual town meeting recommendations. Would the board be so kind as to allow Mr. Fleming to work through his appointments for 9/11, as it will take some time to get through all of the annual town meeting
That
recommendations?
is your discretion.
Then I certainly would
You can
invite
amend this
you to-
agenda however you want.
Thanks, Greg.
I
Dennis?
always take people in the room when they're here, but you don't ask us, just get to do it.
Well,
That's your
I'm a,
privilege for this.
I'm a little more democratic in some ways. But anyway, Dennis, I did go back into the minutes and some meetings, and we did find that there was some resignations from your committee, and they were accepted by the board. You do have two, you have one death on your committee as well. You do have 2 slots, and you have recommended Michael Leonard and Michael Wood to fill those. And I know that they were here at a previous meeting, and I look for any concerns that you have or anything that you would like to say.
They're very willing and able to do what we're looking for. Mike is a mason as well, a stonemason, and does a lot of work. His input would be very valuable. The other gentleman is also, he's a truck driver, but on the side, he did a lot of construction stuff, so he's very enthusiastic, and they're willing to come to the meetings. And unfortunately, with COVID and everything else, it's like COVID is the blame all for everything.
True
It
enough.
was a big monkey
Right,
wrench.
so it's cool. So,
True enough.
they're willing to come to the meetings, so we have a quorum and we can get things rolling again. I mean,
Will these
it's been a
two,
long process.
will these two people make a full committee? think so.
I don't believe so. I think
No,
there
I
may
don't think
be-
so.
I actually sent in
I think we went through that last time and found out there
Yeah.
were several
to,
vacancies. So.
Jessica, who was on. I have it. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait one second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have room for one more. The committee is of 9.
Okay.
And it's a yearly appointment. If you don't get or want to be reappointed in June, then you fall off of it. Some people have just chosen not to come back, some death, family, whatever.
Mhm.
So we would still have one opening. And if I may, you would probably remember him, Bill O'Donnell.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's resume is about that long. He works in Washington in the National Archives, I believe, but he's a retired Navy, Korea Navy guy.
Right.
35 years, I think he put in the Navy. And it's amazing that this guy came out of Barre, not that that's insulting, that you don't really know
A little,
much
but
about him.
moving
Well,
on.
you know what I'm saying? Usually you hear about famous people. He's extremely famous in the United States Navy. He was really up there. And he contacted Bob Bentley. Let me back up. I contacted him a little while ago about asking him for some help to get a ship named after Basil Ismay. And in the interim, he contacted the Barre Historical Society because he saw, I think, the meeting about the 9/11 committee, and he wants to help.
Hmm.
So if he would like to get on that committee, he could meet with us Zoom-wise or on the phone or whatever. I think it would be a huge asset to have him on that.
Well, I would assume that he would have to indicate his desire to be on that, and you could bring it forward to the board at a
Yeah.
later date.
Because he was actually in the Pentagon when it was
Yes, he
hit.
was. Yeah. We're very familiar with him from, he's been very involved with the ROTC
Oh, yeah.
group and brings them to Washington
Oh, yeah.
sometimes and does wonderful tours with them and so.
It was really something. And if I may, just 1 second, I don't know, I think there might be some misinformation about that property in front of the IGA or the Barre Foods. That's not town land, that's state land. So if you're thinking of putting a permanent sign there, you'd have to ask the state.
Mhm.
Because that's actually a memorial square, that's Tripolo Square.
Right.
So just keep that in mind, the state doesn't own that. I mean, the town
Sure.
doesn't own it, the state does.
Okay. So could I have a motion to appoint to the committee Michael Leonard and Michael Wood, please?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say again, thank you for waiting the couple weeks. I know it was a pain, but it was important to get the process right, and thank the guys again for coming in. And I would make a motion that we appoint Michael Leonard and Michael Wood both to the 9/11 committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? Having a motion and a second, I ask for those in favor.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Dennis.
Thank you for bumping me up.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. Have a good night.
Night, Dennis.
Okay, moving on. The annual town meeting recommendations. I had the opportunity to attend the hearing with the Budget and Finance Committee, and was available to hear them walk through the annual town meeting warrant and their recommendations, which are included in the document that you have here. And so this would be the first time with the selectmen, last year, I don't think we did this, because I can remember we were at town meeting and asking each other what we were doing, but we have the opportunity now to go through the articles and to add our select board recommendation to the document. And so, moving along, we'll go article by article, and you can see the Finance Committee's recommendation on those articles. And any discussion obviously would be appropriate, and I would certainly indicate this would be an informal process, in that we would get to the point where we would have a conversation if necessary, and then make a vote to either recommend or not recommend favorable action. So moving along, Article 1, questions, comments, or concerns as we move? Pretty straightforward.
Article 1, meaning
Payment of bills, yeah, from a prior fiscal year.
I'm just looking at the stuff, fund balances and things.
Oh,
But before we go anywhere, I
Okay.
need to cover those. How can we possibly have negative free cash?
how can we possibly have negative free cash?
Yes.
Because it was certified of any consequence, and what happened was we are negative, and because we didn't have our Department of Transportation reimbursements in until, about 2 or 3, maybe a week ago. And the certification process, obviously, we got negative free cash when we went to certify, because we did not have the Department of Transportation information in. I mean, if we tried to certify now, we'd never make it
I
before.
don't understand how free cash can ever go negative. Free cash is certified that we have it, until then we don't have it.
Well,
I
when you
don't
go- when you-
understand how we can say free cash is negative.
Because you go through the certification with the Department of Revenue, and they look at all of the revenue streams that you have, and what has happened as far as what you've spent. And because of the Chapter 90 reimbursements, that's the primary driver of this number, we were in the negative because we did not have revenue to offset what we had spent. So when they go through it, if you don't have more, revenue on the books than you spent, it's negative free cash. It's not an uncommon situation. It's unfortunate, but not uncommon. And we will be able, I hope, to certify, free cash in the fall this year.
When we authorize part of this in Chapter 90 funds to be paid out, prior to receiving these, I thought we authorized to borrow for those funds or whatever. That they didn't necessarily come straight out of the free cash and out of the coffers.
Well, it doesn't come directly out of the coffers, but what happens when when the town doesn't submit the reimbursement paperwork, then the state sits here saying, okay, you have you now have a deficit from the state for $600 and something thousand. So if you're not gonna submit us that paperwork, we're gonna hold your revenue from you. So they take it from us until we submit our paperwork. And then that's when they're like, okay, and they end up giving it back to us.
I can't imagine this is a surprise. I've been whining about this for months.
Right.
Maybe years.
We've never had a negative free cash, so it's the first time I've seen it come up, and the first time I've seen it expressed that way.
I don't know, this is my
I've never
first,
seen it expressed that way, so I don't know why.
this is my first year in.
I don't know why they call it negative free cash as opposed to, whatever it is unrealized revenues at this point.
Well, when the Department of Revenue goes in to certify
But
free
those
cash.
papers have been now turned in months ago.
No, months ago, but there were numerous errors in there that the Department of Transportation kept sending for us to fix. And so once the DPW group had gotten everything fixed, and we were able, through our accounting process, to have all the paperwork done according to what Department of Revenue wanted us to do, when was this? Maybe 3 or 4, maybe 2 months ago now, they certified the free cash as negative. And we finally got the transportation, the Department of Transportation, to give us the revenue that, we were owed, because we finally got our paperwork straightened out. So they sent the money, but it was too late because the certification of free cash happened before that.
Right, so this was back in February.
Yeah.
It was certified back in February, and there was, the paperwork hadn't been turned in by then, so
Well, the
that.
paper was turned in, returned, made adjustments, not accepted by our treasurer, by our accountant. And then in the interim of that returning they were redone, they came out with a new format for
Yeah.
papers to be filled out, and that new
Well,
format.
everything went online.
And as soon as that stuff was available, those were turned in yet again, yes. So I
Right.
understand where the holdups came up.
Yeah.
And that paperwork being returned in, it took still months after that.
Months.
Right.
For them to
Months.
send a check.
And it was the Department of
because-
Transportation said, oh, no, we want more information about that. We
Right.
want more
So
information
the
about
Where
that.
was
Depart-
that the Department of Transportation wanted more information after our?
Well, they kind of did a mini audit because it was so late, so they wanted to see our procurement paperwork, they punished us in more than one way to say, like, don't do this again. So instead of just doing the normal turnaround time for the DOT, they wanted to see extra information from the town to prove that we've done, we didn't just mess up like one thing, they wanted to make sure that we did everything correct. Because if we had made a mistake in the procurement process or something like that, I mean, they would have really,
That would have been
And
bad.
this started with a small sum of money being assigned to the wrong account is what initiated all this. I
Oh,
believe.
no, I disagree with you. The paperwork should have, according to the Department of Revenue, it should be ongoing, that most towns report quarterly, and they say, this is how much of Chapter 90 we've spent, and they send the paperwork in. Now it's online, so it will be much quicker. And we didn't send any in for the whole year, anything, okay? And then comes the end of...
This is FY '21.
Yes, we didn't send in any paperwork.
Right,
And-
that's the year we were held up because of the
and-
bridge project they wanted repaired, and they held up all of our Chapter
Yeah.
90 spending, so we couldn't do anything then.
Okay, until, it was into late September that we had any effort to work with the accountant to get the numbers into the state. And then they still didn't send anything to the state, and then finally, they were so late, we were so late in reporting, that we decided we'll just go online and do it. So they did it online by December 1st. That's when the online program opened up. So they began to put in the data. The data came in, and then that's when the Department of Transportation said, oh, now we want you to do this, now we want you to ask, and there's a whole litany of stuff that they had to report on. When I talked with Jason about, okay, Jason, where are we, about maybe a month and a half ago, he said, okay, Maureen, I think everything they've asked us for, we've done. So, and I said, okay, when's the check coming? And so then I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago that I checked with the accountant. I said, is it in? Is the check in the mail? Because Jason did communicate with me. And he said, Maureen, the check's in the mail. I said, okay. And so then we did receive the money from the Department of Transportation. And so while our free cash during its certification process is in the negative, obviously, we should be able, we should be able to certify free cash in October, November, which is usually what happened. And then we would have free cash, and that's when usually the town will say, we can have a cleanup warrant, we can clean up some stuff because we have access to our free cash. We have no access to free cash because of the lateness of our paperwork. It is what it is, and obviously we'll work through this so we don't have it happen again. And I talked with Jason, I said, Jason, have we started to send in, what monies we've spent in Chapter 90 so far this year? He said, I haven't spent a dime in Chapter 90. I said, what? So, yeah, he said, I'll spend it all in the summer, which is probably true, I
They've
don't
been
know.
doing the sidewalks, yeah, it's typically summer and fall.
Yeah, so at any rate, because it's online now, it's easier for them to file, I think, but we still have to file, so we have to just be on top of that.
So the amount of funds we're waiting on then is someplace in the ballpark of 600,000.
I would say so.
600,000 to
I would say, but,
Because our free cash, this is the year I said we're gonna have fantastic free cash,
Hmm.
because we had
we would have,
excise tax revenues that we used in our calculation of the levy, and they said, nope, you can't use those, they're not collected yet, and they came in, the first month, the next year, like $220,000.
Yeah.
So we should have the 220,000
plus.
that came in, plus the extra 220,000 we threw into, so we should have had, $400,000 to $500,000 in free cash. So
Well,
to be this low, that signifies it's gonna be 400,000+.
Well, you know,
600 plus.
I think it's important that we understand that the process, which is the certification process, is more difficult now. There's been a whole change in who's running the Department of Revenue. So I would just say that Wagner is,
Jessica, what is the amount that's outstanding that came in for those checks for that year for Chapter 90?
It was about 600 and, I'd say 630,000.
30,000.
it was around there.
Still less than I expected for free cash before that. That would still only leave us at 300,000 of free cash.
Yeah, because of the negative.
I expected that to be over 400,000 though with the excise tax issue. But,
Well, I think though, if we we do due diligence, we can have free cash available to us
In the fall.
in late fall. That would be the plan.
which would be this year's free cash, which should be hopefully a couple 100,000 plus. for
Agreed.
that. You should be
Agreed.
someplace in the 600,000.
Well, I don't think I'd go as high as 600,000, but I would love you to be right.
Yeah, 630, they only leave us at 3. So we could be 5, maybe. It'd be nice.
It would be very nice.
It'd be nice, and I was hoping to be able to have that money to stock up the stabilization accounts this year, but not happening. Okay, next thing, the ambulance reserve receipts. We typically have, what, 400 and about 70,000 in ambulance receipts? What did we have last year for receipts that we put in?
Last year, I would have to look. I know last year we transferred 425,000 to
Okay, so that-
offset the budget.
So that would be our receipts, our reserve receipts are 425. So our receipts have gone up by 53,000 to 50.
It's actually, that was before the May numbers came in, so now we're over 500,000.
With May puts us over 500.
Yep. Yeah, we got the May check like right after I did this
So we're
booklet.
500 and what? So this would have been 10 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I think
we
we're
add
at like
96 to that, so that
503.
would put us at 5, you know.
50.
Well, if you added 96 for 20%, ouch, for 20% increase, because if this is 10 months, we'd have 12 months, we should have made the 96,000 roughly, and 95,000.
No, so we had a very good year with there.
It would be 73, which would put us at 573. Well, what I'm saying is, when we go back to the topic of looking at the extra fire positions, you can say we've had from 425 to 573, we've had $150,000 increase in revenue. And if that's attributed to those 2 full-time positions, that's how we justify, and that's what I said the chief would normally come in and say, here's my increased revenues by pulling those shifts. Here's the increased revenues that came in the way of, $150,000 came in the way of probably $250,000 in receipts, and $150,000 collected and $100,000 we write off. It's typically how that goes. But that's the number we look for when you ask for the new position. He can say, since the CARES Act gave us this money and we funded those 2 spots, by having those two positions, and I don't know if this is the case, but we realized a $150,000 increase in receipts. You know what I mean? And then we look at the expense for each
Well,
of those positions and we say,
well,
it's justified.
yeah,
So
and-
that's the numbers I'm hoping
And I
to bring
understand,
in.
and I understand that, he sent us some documents, and it was not here to comment on the situation specifically. But certainly, my history, which has been brief with the chief and fire chief, has been, he is attention to detail, he does understand who's
He
running.
usually brings these in though, that's what I'm saying.
Well, he may. I mean, I don't in any way disparage his work.
Myself, I would think they're there, he wouldn't ask for it, but without seeing it, it looks bad publicly. We just give them to the position because he asked for it, without asking for justification. And in my particular position, where I typically abstain from any of the fire department things, it sure can have the appearance that I'm just like turning a blind eye to it because it's giving them favoritism without the justification. I want people to see that receipts jumped $150,000. So
Yeah.
that this is what,
Yeah. Well,
probably where they're coming from.
One thing I will say, that there have been online meetings, virtual meetings at the Budget and Finance Committees where all of this information has been discussed in some detail. And so I don't want to disparage the chief and say
It's
that he
not
didn't,
disparaging the chief.
that he didn't, well,
I'm saying before we approve new positions, we typically
okay.
the board would typically, since I've been on the last 5 years, before we award a new position, as I said before, if Jessica just said, I need a second assistant.
Well,
I need $50,000 for a new assistant.
By the way-
We're gonna pay her more than Sandy. We'd say, why? What are the duties? How do we justify that time? We wouldn't just say, okay.
well, it is,
And we just said, okay.
it is what it is. Are you requesting that the chief come in and give us a report on
Well, I
this?
thought we decided upon that in the last meeting, and that's why I want the minutes modified. We agreed on that last meeting. We said, in the meantime, you decided to stay with your vote and leave those positions in place. But we asked the chief, at that meeting, we decided we would have the chief come in and demonstrate that for us, so we could show the public why we're doing it.
Okay,
So that's what that was about. So that number is dreadfully low to justify two positions. The 150,000 increase justifies it, and I assume that's what we're going to see when the chief comes in and shows us. And then we won't have people, because believe me, I've heard it from people.
Okay.
Outside of the meeting, I was, shall we say, questioned on it, if I say it politely.
really?
Yes.
I won't
So
dispute that.
it's nice to be able to show that it's generating revenue,
Mhm.
to at least cover it, if not more than cover it. And, you know, especially we are picking up other towns as well. That does bring more
Mhm.
revenue, more calls in, but justifies more personnel. I like it to be demonstrated. Sorry about, now, that was my questions on those things.
Okay,
Oh my gosh, sorry.
What article are Ray talking about now?
No, we're starting Article 1.
we're starting Article 1
I was
now.
I was talking
He was
about
talking about revenue.
some of the revenues, on the beginning page that demonstrate where our revenues are from. Some of the changes in revenues and why they are what they are.
Okay, these are the payment bills from the prior fiscal year. Some of them have direct relationships to actions that this board has taken previous.
Right, so I would make a favorable motion for Article 1.
I would second that.
Further discussion? You're keeping track, Jess? Okay. The second article is a similar
No
one.
further discussion on it.
No. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 2 is pretty
You
much,
are in favor?
yes,
Okay, so we can't do a 3-0 unless we,
3-0.
excellent. Payments for prior fiscal year, the next one is also coming from landfill stabilization, this is Tommy of it. I make a motion, we are favorable on Article 2.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Water
Are you
Enterprise
abstaining?
Fund? No, I'm voting.
Well, we, just say we want to hear it, so please. I want to record 3-0, so I'm just making sure it's, now the Water Enterprise Fund this is typical of what they
Yep.
do. Make a motion, we are favorable action on Article 3.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0. Sewer Enterprise Budget?
I move we have a favorable recommendation on the sewer budget article.
Second?
Oh,
Those in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
Thank you.
Transfer some ambulance receipts reserved. Is
This-
that our number going to stay the same as at 475, Jessica?
I think it'll depend on, I think, what happens with the school budget. We might need to
Okay.
play around with our revenues there, but we're actually gonna end up skipping over this article and combining it with the overall budget, but we'll get to that.
Does the chief have his budget in with the new salaries in the number he needs?
Yep.
Because if he does, that should be fine. It's going to be 75,000 under his receipt, so it's safe to approve it. If he needs to ask
Yeah.
for more, I could see him doing, but there's no reason to ask for less.
Yeah, and it's favorably recommended by the Budget and
So
Finance as
I
well.
would recommend we make a favorable recommendation on Article 5.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Do you know how that works, John, what the budget is?
Yeah.
You take your receipts from one year, and whatever his receipts are is what you can ask for the budget next year. That's strictly how they do it.
I was also at the finance committee meeting
Okay.
last week, so we able to answer good amount of questions. for
Omnibus budget, and we're gonna ask for this entire omnibus budget to go through.
Yes.
I was noting, just if you saw me scribbling before, I was just noting some of the biggest moves in the budget, and such as like the police department moved by 75,000, but obviously the lieutenant's position will probably be a little less than the deputy chief, and the chief and chief going to chief, it's similar, but we did create a new
Yes, we
position
did.
this year, which
Yes,
is
we
gonna
did.
cost us that,
Yeah.
whatever. So people understand when they see the jump,
Yeah.
if they watch this, they'll know ahead of time, that jump in police salaries because of the staff in that last overnight position with 2 officers. We don't have a brand-new officer on by himself overnight
Right,
in our lovely town, which overnight sometimes is not. In the fire department budget, as we just discussed, has increased because we have put in not 1 but 2 new people. It did look like the fire chief's salary was dropped, not risen, so I don't know if that's gonna be changed.
Nope, so the fire chief's salary is now split amongst 3 departments to reflect his responsibilities to the town, so his salary is now split from the fire department, ambulance, and emergency management.
So we're just splitting his salary out of 3 different accounts. It's
Yes.
still the 1 position, fire chief, who
Yes.
still oversees all these subdepartments.
yes.
Yes.
And the last thing that changed significantly on the budget is the library salaries.
Yep.
And that's a very significant 10% increase. And they have justified that, how or why?
I believe that
Just the new director?
we'll get to the new director's salary is more.
And that's a significant change.
Yes,
Okay.
well, yeah,
And to tell people it's significant change, we're asking someone to run the library and the personnel, all the books, the buildings, everything they do there for the recommendation, about 58,000.
Mhm.
It was something dismal like 30-something thousand for years. It's
yeah,
been-
but
it's
it
been
was
far-
around 50 last year, I believe, with,
Well,
40.
yeah,
49 still,
Yeah.
that's, for what they do, it's a low salary.
yes, well, it's the lowest salary.
Any
in the
any
region.
department head that had. Those are my comments on the omnibus, the things that I see.
Okay.
The school budget, of course, I look at it and I say, holy smoke, they got a 4% increase overall, and we had a 2% levy increase. But when you add up our total increase for our revenues, the school has received approximately 52 or 3% of our increases, which is their approximate percentage of our budget. Whenever their percentage increase matches ours and their portion of our budget, I never complain about it, and therefore I will not.
Well,
Well,
that's not the request of the
not-
district, though.
Right.
Well, what we have in here is I'm
Yes,
not happy with.
yes.
That's where I'd
Oh,
like to see it be. It's whatever portion of our budget they have, but we can live with that and work with that. If we have a certain increase, they get that same percentage of that, and that's sort of happened here. And so I don't have a problem with it, so. That's my only comments in the whole omnibus budget before we move on.
Well, the schools are outside of the omnibus.
That's a
Oh,
separate-
okay.
That'll be,
Yeah,
that'll be
they're
a separate
article-
vote.
Sorry about that, I was on
That'll
the
be a
roll.
separate vote.
Was on the roll.
Oh my God, how can I do this?
Okay, so Article 6, basically the omnibus budget that is approved by the Finance Committee and looking for a motion for the Select Board.
I move to make a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Okay, warrant language, okay, then we get to the schools.
That was a good one.
Now,
Okay.
I've already done that, so I make a
Okay.
motion, we are favorable on the school's budget.
Okay, that would be favorable, now that includes Quabbin Regional School District, includes Monty Tech, includes the Quabbin Regional
And the
Debt
debt
Service.
service, which
Okay,
is our
so
typical
that's,
school fee.
okay.
And this, actually, we went down to Monty Tech, I don't know why, if our enrollment went
Enrollment
down.
down, yeah.
Enrollment's down.
So, but it's,
And so the
I would
record,
just move to amend the favorable to match what the finance committee said, that it's favorable for what the town of Barre is recommending.
yes, what's in our budget's favorable,
Yeah.
so. I
Not the requested number.
I accept his modification to my motion.
okay.
So we still have a motion
You
and a
have a
second.
second? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Opposed? Me.
okay.
We have
She's
2 and
opposed.
0.
I'm opposed,
Okay.
so it's 2-0. 2-1, I should say. PEG Access and Cable Related Fund, that's a favorable action from the Finance Committee.
Perfunctory.
Yeah.
Just funds us doing this.
Yes. I move we have favorable recommendation on Article 8.
Second?
Second?
Yes. Those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Warrant language revolving funds, select board, blah, blah, here we go. Those are the typical revolving funds that have appeared in our previous budgets
Right.
with one,
I would like to go through them.
okay?
I mean, we can go through them all and not bother. I mean, most of these plumbing, gas,
I know.
electrical,
Yeah,
they get, their payment comes from the
I mean, the
inspections they do.
library is.
The library, same thing. The money from K-9 going to cruiser replacement, and the Berry Falls Dam revenues. I don't like the cruiser replacement going separate to the police department. We decided, well, the first year I was on, we decided the police need a new cruiser every year. We have to replace one every year and get them on a rotating schedule. The habit was they get a new cruiser and they drove it into the ground in that year, then we had another dead cruiser. We asked former Chief Carbone to put a rotating schedule in to make sure they all were used equally so that they would all have a life that falls off every 5 years. And this is something we wanted to assume into the police department's budget. And if we don't put it in the actual budget, then we got to put it on the warrant every year. And I don't think that by having it go to their expense through their personal account when you're giving the town this false sense that, oh, look, we didn't buy a cruiser this year. Because that sort of leaves the town expecting us to have $50,000 to do something with. Whereas if that money comes into the coffers and we buy the cruiser every year, they're still going to have the same cruiser. But it makes it easier to keep our budget even keel. I don't want to see our budget have a rise and a fall and have them building this money up to pick up a cruiser. They're going to get the cruiser no matter what. But I think it gives the town a false sense that there's $50,000.
So what are you saying? We're going to disregard and not have,
I would like the revolving account for the cruiser to disappear and those funds to go into the coffers. Now, what they do for administrative detail.
no, this was a change in what you used to want, because you were the one who made, because
I did not make that, no.
you made the motion to create this account.
When we're doing the canine, we're not doing a canine, we're dropping the whole dog attempt.
How much money do we accrue from this Barry Falls Dam thing?
It's 7,000 a year.
Yeah, I would say about 7,000 a year.
So the purpose of the, if I may,
Yes, please.
Please.
so the purpose of this, my intention for this account would be so yes, every year, beginning next year, I want to put a line cruiser in my budget. This would be administrative cruiser, so this would be like the chief's cruiser, which would be an addition as opposed to the annual cruiser.
Isn't the chief's cruiser currently one of our annual cruisers?
Well, that would mean 6 cruisers, and then you up it to every 6 years. We get a new cruiser every 6 years.
Yeah, there is one year that we have to get 2 cruisers to keep it on the 5-year rotation.
Right.
Okay, so there's a misunderstanding. I thought we had just the 5 and the chief cruiser was one of the 5 and was, okay. So we're going to put those funds to do the chief cruiser.
So that way the town wouldn't have to appropriate the money
So
for
we're
an
still
additional line.
we're still going to do the line item every year for a cruiser every 5 years.
Correct,
And the chief cruiser is 6, and these funds would go towards the chief cruiser.
correct.
So we could stipulate that, I'd feel better, that's the administrative crew to be purchased specifically to be used for administrative cruiser replacement.
Can you tell me how much money we have at this time in the K-9 account?
The canine account was, it wasn't over 10,000.
Okay.
No, I'm still waiting for Jean to get me the exact numbers.
Okay,
for
so
that.
that's really not a lot of money. So we would just move that. Are you okay
Rolling that into
Rolling into the-
the
cruiser account or replacement cruiser account?
right, into the cruiser replacement, and we're gonna, and we should call it the administrative cruiser replacement. Just so that will clear up, that clears up my misunderstanding for it,
Okay.
and that will clear up anyone's misunderstanding for it.
Are you okay with
The town's
that?
funding the line cruiser, and the actions from the dam and the K-9 money going to be the
Okay.
admin cruiser.
Yeah.
And that leaves it in an account, so he doesn't have to come to us to ask to buy it, he's got an account for that, so when he needs a cruiser, he can go buy the cruiser.
Well, if it's only $7,000 a year, what's in it? I mean,
Well-
what does an administrative cruiser cost? Just $35,000?
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, it's not as much as a line cruiser because you don't have to put as much equipment in it.
Okay.
Well,
I
and
mean,
I just don't know if that would help, substantially, but I didn't know if you could get what you have as an administrative cruiser for $35,000, but maybe you can. What's your take on that?
my thought would be we ought to bump that, car costs are going up.
I have no
We
question.
ought to bump that limit to 70,000, and then when chief thinks he needs a new cruiser, he can buy the cruiser he needs. If that means he buys a better cruiser, so what?
Does it mean that he does it every 6 years?
It means when he's ready, he buys it. And if the
Well-
need is earlier and he has the money. he can
Well,
do it
what if he
earlier.
doesn't have the money, he doesn't buy it?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
But that allows him some discretion in when he finds a better deal, or
Yeah.
if he's gonna repair the current cruiser for $10,000
Mm.
versus, all right, it's time to go get one now, and
Yeah.
I get a little lesser because I don't have enough money in the coffer, or I have extra and I can get
and
it.
the admin cruiser obviously doesn't get the wear and tear that
You're
the
right.
line cruiser does
Yeah.
as well, so
Right.
generally they do last a little longer.
Okay, so we're gonna change that to 70,000 is,
I would like to modify that to 70,000 to make sure, because vehicle prices going up. I know the last truck I bought was
I
just
know, huh?
stupid money.
it's crazy.
It is.
Okay, so,
Make sure there's enough in this we can do it, and if he chooses, if he decides whether pickup or an SUV, or what he, or probably would assume SUV.
so would you please make the motion that includes both the, taking the K-9 fund that's available, moving it to the
Sure.
administrative cruiser
So I make
replacement
a
line?
motion, we modify these revolving accounts so that the K-9 revolving account fund is deposited into a fund for replacing the cruiser.
So,
And the cruiser line shall then be modified to say administrative cruiser, and the hold amount for that revolving account should be changed to 70,000 from 50.
okay. Article 10 does the first half of that motion, that's what Article 10 is for, so
Okay,
I would just recommend that you guys move favorable on that one to do exactly what the motion recommended, minus the changes to the language of the administrative cruiser and the 70,000.
okay, so you're gonna change this
Hold on
chart,
one second, I'll redo that motion. It'll be easier.
okay?
Okay. So I rescind my motion, and I will make a new motion. I move that we make a modification to our revolving accounts as follows. The revolving account that is to be used for a cruiser replacement shall be renamed to be used for a administrative cruiser replacement. And the dollar limitation for that rollover shall be $70,000 as opposed to $50,000.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded, and those further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye?
Aye, 3-0.
That gets rid of that loose account. Now, just curious, this detail administrative fee and cruiser fee, what is that?
So if a company, like a road job, we're working a paving detail or whatever, if they request a cruiser's $10 an hour admin fee.
Okay, so that's just what it is, it's just, because it says 2/3, whatever that is.
And this is used to payment of administrative costs for the cruiser, so what is the $16,000 used for? If you ever got it to 16,000? Fixing the cruiser if it
Well,
needed?
it's kind of, yeah, it's basically to pay for wear and tear on
Okay.
the cruiser. If the cruiser's on a road job, it's sitting there idling, so.
So it's something you can use when you do cruiser
Yeah.
repair and maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
that works.
Just curious what the number was there. So, given that change, I would, I move that we have a favorable recommendation on Article 9.
Second.
Here, any conversation about that?
Oh, okay, never mind.
Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye, 3-0.
Our vote before was just for modifying.
Yeah. Sorry, you said.
Okay.
I haven't done as many modifications as seems, I promise.
Okay, here we go, snow removal account.
Oh, yes.
So what happened with 10? I'm all confused.
We just approved 10.
Okay.
We just have 3-0 favorable.
It's just that the
recommendation.
language is on the next
No, we
page.
just
so-
approved 9.
Yeah.
We haven't done 10 yet.
10
Oh,
is,
Oh, 10 is warrant, 10 is...
The one
Discussed
that-
it a little bit, but
yeah.
we haven't actually done any recommendation.
okay, sorry. So I move for favorable recommendation. on
Yeah,
Article 10.
I think we already,
Second.
yeah. Those in favor?
Aye?
3-0, aye. Okay, snow removal account, Article 11.
I recommend a favorable motion on Article 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
I recommend favorable action on snow removal expense account.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye?
Aye, 3-0. Okay, amend Article 12 of the 2000 annual town meeting. The town will rescind the motion. Okay, this I think is going to be tabled.
Yep, the next 3 articles are gonna be tabled.
Okay. So we're just going to table those, and
Make
we
any-
will say favorable, if, oh, wait a minute. Are those in favor of indicating tabling of Article 13, 14, and 15?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0 on all of those. Okay. Okay, this is the Town Hall roof one, Article
Are
16.
we sure that's worded right to say vote to rescind the vote?
Yes,
Because
You
the money's
sure?
already, the money's already been spent.
Which article is this now?
Article 16.
16.
I would think we'd want a motion to
To take unexpended
take
funds.
unexpended
Blah,
funds
blah,
from
blah, and
Article
put it
16.
somewhere.
It's been in front of our attorney, our town clerk,
I
and the Attorney
agree with you.
General's office, so.
Yeah.
I'm still
They-
uncomfortable with the term rescind, because rescind to me means we revoke the vote, and the money's already been spent. We just want to claim the unallocated funds,
I think,
the unused allocated funds, I should say.
so I think that when we come up with the motion is gonna be where we identify that we move the remaining
Oh,
funds.
the article
from the
is to
town.
return remaining funds from the Town Hall roof project back to the general fund.
Right, so that's really what, and like I said, this has already gone in front of our council, town clerk, and the Attorney General's office for some questions.
I had-
And I haven't received any comments suggesting anything else, so.
Mhm.
How much is left in the account?
28,000,
8?
28,000?
Yeah, we went high in that to make sure we covered it. We didn't want to come up and not get the roof done, because we said,
Well,
depending
right.
on what they do, we could
Hey,
get.
it just made me smile all the way.
We approved like 50 or 60, I kept up the number, I just said, let's make sure we get it done. Because we didn't want to have it not get done. I'd feel much more comfortable saying to return those funds, as it says, where it says the articles return remaining funds, I'd like to say that I move that the town vote to return the remaining funds from Article 30 of the June 15, 2021 meeting.
The only concern that I have if we change that wording is to make sure the Budget and Finance Committee knows it, because they've recommended favorable action on some other language.
Right.
So,
Well, we can't change the wording of the warrant because it's already been posted around town.
We just have
So-
to read it that way.
Okay.
It's gonna be the way, the motion that is written in the book, which I will be getting to this week, has to say, I make a motion to, return the remaining
Well, I-
funds,
I
blah, blah,
moved-
blah.
I'm looking- So we want to make sure we write it that way. I put it this way. I make a motion that when we move this article, we state that it is to return the remaining funds from that Article 30 of June 15, 2021 meeting, as they, or just return the remaining
yeah,
funds.
so
into
when
our
you
gen-
write,
into
when
our
you write the
general fund.
motion.
Yeah.
And then under discussion, people ask, then we can explain,
Yeah.
the roof repair, we were just
Okay.
guessing at our meeting what it could be. We allotted plenty of money to make sure we get the roof repaired. It came in much less, and we have money to return to the town.
Right.
But I don't want to use the phrase rescind on the meeting floor. So that's my motion to,
Yep.
and Si is supposed to change that wording.
I think we may have to use the funds from this to offset the snow removal overtime account because
We
this.
can't.
So it just goes in the
We
general.
found this out last year. We can't return funds into our account and then use it at the same time.
I don't know, I asked our accountant about it and she seemed confident with it, so I can check some other sources about that, but I'm just concerned because the DPW was so overexpended on its snow removal account that and without the access to the free cash, we're kinda in a
Right.
pickle right now.
Last year, we specifically tried to take money that was allocated for the senior center roof repair, which was later covered by a grant, and use that towards the paving project, to get it done all at the same time, and they said, you may not. They must be removed and put back into the coffers. And we couldn't vote them out at the same time. They had to go back in the general fund
Right.
from 2021, and then get certified, and then we could use them. So we can't take it and use it.
Right, like I said, I'll just double check with the DOR and
If we-
see.
If we wind up
what
short
they
because
say.
of free cash, that's why we do our stabilization. That's when we can use our stabilization to ebb that tide and get us through till that money comes back. But when it comes back, whatever we take out
Put back in.
must go back in. But that's what, to me, that's what stabilization's for. That's oh crap, we're
Yeah.
$600,000 short, you know, of where we should be, or whatever it comes out to be. I guess it's 630,000. So we can dip into stabilization to use that. My goal was to add to stabilization, so we don't want to take 600,000 out, but if we got to dip into 100 or 200,000, I have absolutely no problem with that. Because that's what it's for, that's our emergency fund, this is what it's for. Okay?
Right.
And those funds will wind up being free cash, and everything we put back in will go into the coffers, and they'll get certified in October with our free cash. Because they're going to go back in.
Okay, so we are,
So I had a motion to modify that language on the floor, that we agree to modify that language to say
okay, so with that modification, we have a
returning
motion.
funds.
Second. All in favor?
Right?
Aye. Another 3-0. Okay, a capital request for a new ambulance. We have that in there. We have favorable approval from the Finance Committee. And obviously, the issue is, by the time you say you need it and then it's built, it's, going to be a while before we see it, and it would be through a lease purchase agreement.
So that's going to also be a lease purchase. Now, how long does he plan to spread that out over?
3 years.
Only 3?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it has a 5-year lifespan.
Right.
So in order to avoid going upside down in it, keep it on a,
Since we're already upside down in a
So we're
couple other
gonna,
things.
so when we take it out, we got to cough up 100,000 a year.
correct.
Hopefully, there are excess coffers and the ambulance funds can go towards that.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're looking at like 70,000 extra,
Yeah.
which would be fantastic, and
Yeah.
if we could justify that.
That would be great.
Right,
Again, this is 2 years before we even see it.
So it also gives us 2
Yes.
years to pad our
Yeah.
capital.
Right, that's what I'm saying, if those ambulance receipts are going, that account can still grow,
Right,
and
that would help.
that would be helpful.
I'd move for a favorable recommendation.
Second?
Gonna abstain.
Aye.
I'm gonna
Aye.
abstain.
Aye. 2 and 1 abstention. Okay.
I'll call out concerns and tell you what I want to see documents, but I'm not gonna make favorable, unfavorable.
Okay.
purchases for it.
Capital request purchase a fire truck that has a unfavorable recommendation from the Finance Committee at this time. I
I can
don't-
speak about that if you'd like me to.
Huh?
If you would like me to speak on that, I can.
Sure. I know that they certainly, I don't think they're just thinking they just can't afford it.
Right, so the
that we
Finance
don't need
Committee's issue is not that the town does not need another fire truck, it's that the town is currently financing 3 other pieces of apparatus for the fire department.
And are upside down on those
And we are,
debts.
severely upside down in those debts. So they are unfavorable to the idea of incurring more debt for fire apparatus without taking care of the existing debt that we have. And
How much is the existing debt? It's significant.
it's significant, it's 500
The ambulance
plus
is 500, the last ambulance we paid for cash, the prior
Previous.
ambulance.
So we're
is
still paying-
Oh, 60 grand.
we still owe, I think, 127,000
Oh, Jesus.
on the
That's it.
existing ambulance. We
That's-
owe
That's a long time ago, yep, they took
I
that,
remember it.
board took that out, and they took like a 10-year loan out on a
Yes.
5-year ambulance.
I was at this,
Which
I
is
was,
long
I
gone, so.
remember being at the meeting, and this is when
So-
the Collins Center came in and sold a bill of goods to the community, I thought.
So,
You weren't there then.
no, it was not. I was not. Yeah, this is, I agree with getting rid of the debt,
But,
but, in mixed emotions. I know some towns, like, you go and they have 2 fire trucks, you don't have 4 fire engines, you have mutual aid. And I can't think how often we ever go use all 4 engines in a fire.
Well, I think,
We bring them there, but we're often, you get one main attack engine pumping off, and you have the second one in the backup. You know, the tanker may be shuttling water or doing something, but the only time we really get into a 4, which I will say this so people understand, in this town, if we had a structure fire way out on Dana Road, we are going to have an engine at least pumping into that
Right.
fire, probably set into a bag, pumping constantly. And engine 6 is going to be shuttling water to that. Typically, we'll have a backup engine there. We may be doing something on the side of a building or supplying a ladder pipe off a second engine. So those would all be reasonably in use. So what's with why do we need another engine? Well, someone's going to be at the water site,
yeah,
pumping water into these trucks. And when mutual aid comes, you can start to spread these tasks out. But initially, we typically set a truck in to start bringing water up, and our engine 6 can start shuttling water, and it's dumping it in the bag for those other trucks to fight the fire and hopefully supply a ladder pipe. And you really can't supply a ladder pipe, you get more supply coming, which means more engines, more tankers, and then you're gonna get another engine in, and it's gonna go to another fill site and try to set up at least 2 fill sites. So it's rare that you need them all, but when we do, you need them.
and we have a lot of old Dana Road places.
We have a lot of stuff that's way outside
We do.
the hydrant district.
Yeah.
And it's a good run to get to water sometimes. And as much as you rely on mutual aid, those first few minutes, having 4 engines roll in is a huge difference in saving someone's house versus having to sell a whole surrounding land.
But it is,
My bigger concern, aside from having 4 engines, there are more than 1 engine on its way out right now. And this sets us out 2 years.
Engine
Both of the
6 is
engines
already
in
10
South
years old.
Barre are, you know, on their way out.
Well, engine 1 is a newer, but it still wasn't new when it was replaced.
Right.
And even engine 6 uptown, I think was in 99 purchase, and the rescue was a 2000 or something like that, so they're both already to 20 years.
you know,
Right.
But to expect 20 years out of this is reasonable. I don't think they take a 20-year payment on it, right?
Well, I believe the one that this is to replace is 1990.
80.
Yeah.
No, 80's a 80.
It's a 80, that was purchased in 89, and it's
I
a
know
model year 90.
Yeah, I know it's older than me.
All right, so it's,
Me too.
but it still does work, it still does pump, but I think it's, you know,
But where this takes 2 years to get in, on top of this, it might be a bit more necessary.
what I'd always ask people, if you commute to work, and what's your daily driver? Is it 30 years old, 20 years old,
never.
15?
Mm,
And this is not just daily driver, this is life safety. But whether it's,
Well, I mean, we either have to understand if we recommend favorable action, which obviously we could do,
I really don't know.
we're going to get into it with the budget and finance, and I'd rather,
Oh, that never worries me.
well, no,
We can have our own opinions, and they
well,
don't
I
get hurt.
agree we can have our own opinions, but obviously they've put a lot of time and effort into
Right.
these conversations and
And I-
understanding what we owe and so forth.
Right, and I think that the finance committee, they are, like I said, they're unfavorable just to the financial, like,
Yeah.
issue that
The aspect,
we
right.
are in, whether, you know, any of us, none of us were
Yeah.
at this table when these decisions
Right.
were made, but they are, you know, they are favorable to the idea that within the next 2 years, we can commit to restructuring our debt, paying off some debt, you know, and moving on those things.
That's the point I want to get to. We've been working hard, 4 or 5 years, looking at
Stabilization.
getting towards, stabilization is huge. When I started, we were like $170,000 in stabilization. To getting that close to $1 million and having another stabilization account for capital purchases is huge. And we've never gone over the 2.5% levy limit for the Prop 2.5. We've never asked for an override since I've been on, and I don't want to start.
Well,
And
we've
and
never
my
had an
concern is that
we've
we
never had
hurt
an- we've never had
our
an override.
bond ability if we take on too
Listen,
much, and that's what I worry about.
I would just tell you, the bond rating, already because of our audits and stuff.
Right, we gotta
already-
get those things
yeah.
fixed, which hopefully
And-
we're doing, starting
And
next year,
and I
we
would,
start to see it
and
turn
I would
around.
say, and I think, you know, certainly working with the budget and finance, that we should probably look at stabilization as we go forward and pay off at least one of those debts. Because none of those,
And we could, yes.
none of those debts were debt excluded. and-
We could and we should.
Yeah.
And maybe the capital purchase, we do that with.
And I mean, you can,
Eliminate that ambulance.
and you
debt,
can
'cause
also-
That's the
yeah.
biggest thorn.
yeah.
The fire engine debt's brand new, I'm not worried about that.
Well,
but-
it's the other fire engine. We
But-
have two fire engines, 3 fire engines.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot.
We have 4 engines.
But on the debt right now that we're paying on, we have an
Yeah.
ambulance, we have a fire
Well,
truck.
the old ambulance we gotta get rid of. We have engine 4 for sure.
Uh-huh.
I believe ladder we bought cheap and renovated, it was done for like, it was nothing.
The ladder, yep, we have the ladder truck, the 2019
And
truck that was bought brand new, and then we have,
Engine 1 might be still on there, I don't know how much they paid for it. I thought it was only $35,000 purchase, so it
it
shouldn't
was
be
a
on there.
$100,000 purchase, and we
For
still
engine
owe
one?
$60,000 on it.
So that's the other one, so.
Yeah, so we have 4.
And we need to work on getting rid of that
The debt.
ambulance and engine 1 debt. And what people aren't talking about here, and I know the finance committee would say it, is we have a levy limit. We should only borrow a certain percentage of our levy.
Correct.
And I will,
Right now, it's
without knowing the
4%.
numbers, I can assure you, if we take on a $700,000 loan, that we're gonna go beyond a healthy
Right now, it's 4%
leverage
of our
against our
budget.
levy. Pardon me?
It's 4% of our budget is our debt.
Okay, and I think they say 5 is what we should be, or 7 or something, but it's, this is pushing up, I think, too high to approve it this year, so I would,
Well, here's the other, we wouldn't be taking this on as debt until it comes through in 2 years, correct?
Right, so we would be,
This is just to put us in a queue for a
Yeah.
fire engine.
yeah, so this time, 2 years from now, we would have the money in our budget.
Do we know if they're, so let's say this is approved at town meeting, we put it in the queue, things don't work out financially speaking, and we end up canceling, I assume there would be some sort of penalty, something along those lines?
I would have to
no,
look.
I don't think so.
I don't know what the contract,
Okay.
because we don't put any money down
They'll
on
just
it.
sell it to someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They'll tell, hey, good news, unless they custom built it for us, but if they haven't started custom building,
Because my
No.
other concern that comes into this is just, historically speaking, looking at inflation following
Mhm.
major spending, it's usually about a 3-year cycle to crest and come back down. So it could dramatically increase where it's already, what was it? What did they say, it was 500,000 in 2019?
525.
525, and now it's 700. So pushing this off could be a huge, time value interest, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that there is a clause in our contract to say if the price, so we're at a price ceiling when we agree to this, and if the price drops, then we, get some kind of benefit from that price drop.
Yeah.
And then there's also a benefit for us to purchase two pieces of apparatus at the same time. I don't know exactly what that benefit is, but if we're going in to buy an ambulance and a fire truck, there will be some kind of incentive for us to do that.
So we would have 2 years to clear debt off of our book before this would become.
and the problem is, we can't say we're approving this purchase for a budget 2 years from now. We can't do that. We have to approve it for this year's budget. Now, we can explain to the town that, this is projected to be a purchase in 2 years. And prior to the purchase, we need to remove these other items from our levy limit. And that can be done at special town. Certainly, get rid of one or get rid of both.
Well, there's 3 of them.
4.
4 or 5. And it's substantial
Only
cash.
only one of them is not upside down now. One of them is
It's okay,
okay,
but some of them are in
but
real tough
the
shape.
other ones are upside down.
I mean, we owe like 60 grand on something that we're ready to throw in the trash
Right,
heap.
that has to go, and the engine 1 payment has to go.
We gotta clean up the
And
mess.
what are the other 2? Well, we know there's engine 4, I don't know what the 4th vehicles they say.
We have the ambulance, we have the
Right.
ladder truck, which was
Ladder truck
bought
should have been cash.
used.
That
No,
was an 18,000 or 30, that was a low cash price, I thought.
no, it's up in my office, but there's the ladder truck, the brand new truck that they purchased in 2019,
Right, we
which
know
is not
that.
upside down. Like the chief said, if he sold that tomorrow, he would get more than what we owe on it.
Right, because the new ones are selling for 7.
Yeah, and the last one is a used truck that they bought, I think, from Rutland or some other community
Engine
nearby, that they purchased it for $100,000. It was supposed to be a 1-year Band-Aid, and it's turned into
Okay,
5
but
or 6 years.
we still
No,
owe.
We still
it was
owe
not- It was not
60,000.
supposed to be a 1-year Band-Aid.
No,
It
we
was
still,
not supposed to be, it was a replacement for engine 1 at $100,000.
we
The
still owe
1-year Band-Aid was a
60,000.
truck that was offered to them for free if they did not want, which was a 1-year
Well,
Band-Aid.
it comes down to you and whether we're going to recommend favorable action on this, understanding what we have to do in order to put this order in. We have some responsibilities to clear the decks, as Greg points out. And so...
It's still... $700,000 more, and the debt is big.
It's big.
It's gonna double, it's gonna put us at 8%. I thought it was like 7 is where we're supposed to stay. It would put us in an unhealthy ratio. We have 5, we have like 660 out right now. This is almost double us, or more than double us.
Some of that debt is also exclusive to the water or the sewer department.
No, but I mean, yeah, not that, I mean debt against our levy, which is ours.
Right, so okay, so it's less than 4% is exclusive to the general fund, but I was saying overall, it's like 4%, but then there is a couple of the wastewater treatment plant debts in there too, which,
Well, I am going to abstain from it. I wanted to
Anyway.
make sure we had full discussion on,
Yeah.
on all the aspects of it and full comprehension of what the concern is. My concern, of course, is a total debt against the levy,
Oh.
which we can discuss at town meeting with the finance, and we can get into a discussion on the floor, so everyone understands it,
Well,
and have those conversations on the floor.
It's a convoluted, to have at town meeting. I know it'd be difficult. The thing that we just found
They're
out
smart
about...
enough to follow it at
Well,
this.
yeah, but we just found out also that it appears that the 40% we're going to get reimbursed on the sewer is pie in the sky. It looks like they might make a loan to us. So we...
We're not doing that.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, so I've made an effort today to contact the governor's office to see what, we can get for help, and because they're just blowing us off, right?
yeah, I mean, based off of some of the recent emails with the USDA, it's, I guess, I don't know how
I
to
think
read
they're
it.
unhappy with us because we didn't take Hardwick in, because they thought they'd throw $500,000 at us and we'd be all happy to take Hardwick in.
Well,
We needed
I-
like $2 million
No,
in renovations
I
to do
hope
it.
it's not that political. It sounds to me like,
It might be.
with all the infrastructure money that supposedly is around, I was shocked that there wasn't some reimbursement rate. We had hoped minimally for 40. Well, we're not even in 4%. So I worry, like you do, Greg, about our debt. And not to go forward with some of the repairs at the sewage treatment plant is iffy, but we know that what that will do to users if there's no reimbursement on that. So
Right.
anyway, so I'm concerned about that as well. So I don't think this is an easy vote for me. I just look at it and say, geez, I would like to get into the queue, and if I knew we could, a year from now, say, okay, we're out, that's one thing, but if we're in once we make this vote and we make communicate with whoever builds fire trucks, and that we're in for 700 or
Well,
650,000.
we can say to be announced, and we can ask the chief if there's
TBA.
is there a penalty if we pull out after a year, because we can't fund it.
Yeah, well, we could fund it, we could debt exclude it, we could fund it, but I just...
I know, but we
Yeah.
need to know on the floor,
Yeah.
is there a penalty if we pull out? So if the town knows if we do pull out, we're gonna hit a penalty.
And if not?
We'd be looking at,
Yeah.
a debt exclusion for something, which I don't wanna ask for, I don't think we have to. Unfortunately, our marijuana monies are not coming in. I think High Hawk Farm is stuck with hemp production instead of marijuana, so they will see nothing from that.
No.
Our second license we gave away never got up and running, and as I believe, since we had the issues.
They're still with hemp, they didn't do any marijuana last year? Oh,
Yeah, we would have seen it already, would have been due by
no
April.
cannabis? I thought they were into cannabis. When I spoke with Chris and his dad, that they were into cannabis, and it was a bad season for cannabis because it was very wet.
And-
So,
And it could, well, and that could be why they only wound up with hemp.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that is because
If you don't get the flowers, you
Oh.
have no, if you don't get the buds, you have no marijuana. If you have the plant, you have hemp, and that could be all they get out of it.
right, because later on the agenda, we do have the 2 license renewals for High Hawk Farm and Caregiver Patient Connection, so.
In Caregiver, they came in here and asked to start building, and they went for a building permit to start building
Well,
3 more facilities up
yeah,
there.
and the rest is history, right? I mean, it didn't happen.
It should have happened.
Well, I agree with you,
The town
100%.
council said we gave them carte blanche right to build
Yeah,
up there and
and-
develop, and they should be allowed to. And I believe what happened was the planning board at the time, or a member of the planning board, wrote a letter to the state, really out of place and out of their right against town council's things, and made allegations that were just inaccurate
Yeah.
and that, and wrong, legally wrong. And that's caused Iandoli to walk away from expanding it all.
Right.
So something that would have expanded to much more money for the town is going to dry up because of that.
Yeah,
And I think that's abhorrent.
yeah.
But that could have been good revenues for the town.
It's scary when we start to agree, Greg.
It could have been great revenues for the town, and I still think we should have considered redoing some of these zoning bylaws to find a place where someone could reasonably open a marijuana retail shop in town, because they've made that all but impossible to do without buying multiple properties.
Okay, so we're going to we're going to go over this before the meeting again? I mean, at the meeting?
I would
No
recommend,
recommendation?
I would recommend that, but I'm not gonna, I
So-
won't vote, but I would say that might be.
I would say, let's say no recommendation.
I'll move for no recommendation on Article 18.
I second it. Those in favor?
Abstain.
2 to one abstention.
And then if there is the way to pull out, I'm
Yeah.
favorable.
Okay, capital request HVAC replacement in Station 2. That was favorable by the Finance Committee and pretty much explained pretty well to us at the hearing. I don't know if you probably know more about it just because you're part of the organization, but,
I don't do anything down
Yeah,
Station 2, that's why I
okay.
was surprised they needed it, but.
okay.
I'd recommend, I'm sorry, I'd move for a favorable recommendation.
I would second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
And abstaining?
Yes.
Okay. Capital request for Ruggles Lane parking lot. It seems like we've voted this one a lot of times.
Well, once again, for people that are listening tonight, we took this money out of CARES Act to not have to have a special town meeting just for it, and to ensure we could continue in a timely manner, which didn't happen yet. So this will be done after the fiscal year.
Yes.
Changes of it, so we do have time to put it before the town and not use the CARES Act money.
Supposedly, that's supposed to start on there
So
on
if the town
the 18th
doesn't
of
in
July.
turn approve this project, that would save us from using the CARES Act money, which is how we were going to pay for it.
Right,
So we don't have to rescind any votes of that, we just don't spend the CARES Act money.
Right.
So
those in favor?
I would.
I should say, those
I would
making a
make a
warrant.
recommendation, favorable action on Article 20.
Okay.
Second.
And we have a motion, and we have a second, and the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so it's 3-0. Okay, these are perfunctory, but I assume we will go
Yeah.
over them just for information.
The rest of them are.
I recommend the board a favorable recommendation on Article 21.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay, the treasurer collector borrowing, perfunctory again.
Recommend a favorable recommendation. I move for favorable recommendation, Article 22.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay, these are perfunctory as well.
I move we have a favorable recommendation, Article 23.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Reports from committees.
I move for a favorable recommendation, Article 24.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. The citizens petition that is Richard McDonald Jr., I know that he and his attorney appeared before us some months ago, and I know that they've been working with the planning board. Is this something that, it doesn't say that we're supposed to recommend anything? It looks like Budget and Finance did not recommend anything.
Right. I've already,
This is really a planning board thing, isn't it?
yep, so after we created the warrant a couple of weeks ago, I sent that information to the planning board so they could do their formal process of having the public hearing. Their public hearing is next Friday. And then, it'll be done.
Next Friday, you mean this Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, it can't be next Friday, because
Yeah.
that's after the town meeting.
Right, you're right. The next Tuesday is the town meeting. So it is this Friday, so we are prepared to have a recommendation from
From them.
them, I guess, on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay, because this has no financial impact on anything on the...
I mean, you could,
it's a change in what they're gonna do
Right,
with
I
the land, I guess.
guess you could say long-term, there's a financial impact on the town, because
We can always be busybodies and stick our nose and recommendation into it, but basically
Yeah.
what this is the stuff down near the
Yes,
ski hill.
yes.
Where they already have a storage
I
facility,
know
they
it.
already have, and
I know.
it's just calling it what it is.
Exactly,
It is business.
I agree with you.
So, I mean, I would recommend we do a favorable recommendation. I move we have a favorable recommendation on the
Second.
I would, those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay, I would say 3-0, favorable.
you know what it is, we're not, it makes sense,
Yeah.
and if the planning board was against it for some particular reason, they'll let us know at town meeting.
Yeah, okay.
And I think what they're recommending makes sense.
Okay. The other citizen petition stuff is, was not discussed and/or there was no favorable or unfavorable action. It just,
Well, no, we certainly can do favorable and unfavorable actions on it.
we can?
Sure we can.
I said we can. I was making a statement, not a
Oh,
question.
okay.
Sorry if my voice elevated at the end.
That's how it began? All right. So if we get to the after award, the whereas and everything else. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Barre hereby adopt this resolution in support of the work of the special commission relative to the seal of the motto of the Commonwealth, establish and resolve the grant of the General Court 2020 appointed by Governor to recommend to change the current flag and seal of Massachusetts in support of the new seal and motto for the Commonwealth, and may better reflect our aspirations for harmonious and respectful relations between all people, so on and so forth. I'm against it. I don't want to change the state flag, so. Crazy. I would agree we have an unfavorable.
It's gonna pass, guys, next week anyway, but
I have a favorable opinion of it.
I do too.
I personally find flags and seals to be a completely outdated means of communication, but that being said, it's a really bad flag, honestly. It's very indistinguishable.
Yeah,
Like there's,
it's a really bad flag.
on top of that, everything about
Indigenous
The-
peoples is sort of
the seal is.
trumped on. Yeah,
I have no problem with anyone changing that or just completely removing them. Removing the seal and flag, that is. I don't even know why.
I'm one of those crazy people that thinks tearing down monuments and trying to erase history is kind of silly, and this is how it's been, and it's,
The problem,
it is
though,
what it was.
with
That's
this
just my
one-
opinion. I understand, but I'm just saying, that's why I don't like to make.
This one is just such an inaccurate representation of history to begin with.
the chiefs.
That's why, I mean, even if you want to look from a historical
Yeah.
perspective, it makes
Okay.
zero
For him.
sense as a seal.
Oh, okay.
Or there should be
I
something.
would
No.
move to
No?
No,
Oh,
recommend a
I'll
favorable,
make sure I get you copies.
okay.
yeah, favorable action on Article 20, recommendation
I
26.
think that, this will barely be, I believe the legislature will probably have already
I think they already have made a
make a
recommendation to.
Yeah, and so we would be supporting the recommendation that Donald Berthium and Ann Goby that we'd be sending information to them to make the change. So, I mean, that's what this is talking about. I certainly would vote in favor of making a change in the flag. But,
I made a favorable recommendation.
okay, so you made the motion, I seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
No.
okay, so that's a two and one. Citizens petition, the resident demand, town of ministry reports.
You're on 27 now?
Yes.
Currently, how often are reports done?
A specific written report?
Yeah.
I don't believe specific written reports are filed with the town administrator.
No, it varies department by department. Some departments do monthly written
Mhm.
reports, but for the most part, it just is about communication. I communicate with the chief
Mhm.
about what's going on in his department, but he doesn't necessarily send me an email saying what he's done over the past month or week.
Do you find that you're out of the loop and out of touch? I mean, are we missing information, we're having errors in our accounting with our departments that would be resolved by something like this? Or is this just gonna add more paperwork to everyone else's day?
Well, I definitely think that there are gaps in communication with certain departments. But I don't think that putting together a resolution will necessarily improve that.
I personally think a week might be burdensome.
It also says all committees and boards.
Mm.
You know how many
Right.
committees there are?
And not all of them meet. Even some of them meet quarterly, some of
I just
them
think it's unrealistic, that's all.
meet at a certain time of year. I mean, and then it also, like, we do have an annual town report where every department, even though it takes Sandy 6 months to get those reports, every department and committee does, and that's why we have a 90-page annual town report that is available every year. So that is a kind of a
Well, it says
compilation.
And likewise, all committees and boards heads, chairpersons to provide an annual report too. I feel that without further examination of these requirements, I would recommend unfavorable action until such time as we could study this particular situation, because we're very understaffed in most of these
Mandate the
departments.
department heads provide weekly administrative reports to the town. It doesn't say about what or anything about.
Well, no, it says to be
To town
published.
administrator, to be published in their entirety, so the report has to be in their entirety,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say what's to be included in that report.
Right,
So, it's, you know, very vague.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's-
At best. It doesn't, you know, the weekly report can simply say, still here and working. Here's my weekly report, and then she has to publish all of that.
Right, and I do think
I
that,
just think it's not thoroughly thought out and concise, so I would second your motion to have an unfavorable recommendation.
Yeah, as far as further discussion, if it was monthly or quarterly, maybe if we took the annual report and broke it down quarterly, something like that might be more appropriate, possibly even monthly, but I think we also would really need this to specify departments or specify committees, because there are,
But they're not asking for
Various
anything,
committees.
they're
So-
asking for nothing but a report. It doesn't say what they want. What are they looking for in this report?
Right.
right,
And they're looking for the number of workers, how many hours they worked, what they accomplished,
Yeah.
what they spent, all of it. I mean, there's absolutely no definition of what they want provided, so it just.
and I do
so
think
one
that.
of those three, I would agree.
Right, I do think that this type of idea is also within the purview of the select board. I think that the select board should come up with any parameters, guidelines, requirements of what they want their departments to do on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis,
I do
so.
think getting more information out to the public about what's going on is important and something that we need to address. I don't know that this is
The
quite
venue.
the way to do it.
Yeah.
Right, we have to decide what it is we need to share with the town, that what are they,
Yeah.
we don't know when people say that, what they're looking for. Are they
Need
looking
more
for, are they
specifics.
looking for, I mean, we can certainly do quarterly balances in all of our accounts.
Mhm.
Say, hey, beginning balance in the police department was, 689,000, after the first quarter, there's, 450,000 left.
Or DPW, we worked on
Right.
this, and this, just a short bulleted list of things that.
Right, the thing,
Progressed.
and we've already started to address that
Yeah,
meetings ago and got nowhere with the DPW commission on starting to generate a calendar of intended projects. Bearing in mind that calendar, once you have a water break, a sewer break, a snowstorm, a hailstorm, a thunderstorm, it throws that calendar off.
Yeah.
But, we're trying to address that down there already. And,
I assume that's in projects,
so, yeah, just
Microsoft projects.
a monthly calendar projects. Here's what we're doing, planning for this month.
Okay, so
I was asking about certain
we have a motion
That's
to,
all, so.
for
Yes,
unfavorable
finance.
action.
Yeah.
It's been seconded. Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye?
Right.
Yes.
That's 3-0.
Has a software that does.
Citizens petition on Article 28, which is to support the town of Barre voting to mandate the town warrant be kept open for no less than 30 consecutive days prior to each town meeting to facilitate citizen involvement. Again, that is sometimes not practical. So it's nice, but maybe not practical.
Again, I think it's within the purview of the select board, and
It
the
is.
select board should retain
I
that
move we recommend
responsibility.
unfavorable on that as well.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, it would be great to be
I'm
able
still
to do
thinking it
30,
through.
there's just, you can't do it.
It just takes a little extra planning on our part to meet this requirement, but I don't,
Well, when you come to a,
giving a sufficient amount of time to get that together, get signatures, I don't know that it's a terrible idea to have at least a minimum amount of time. Is there a minimum at this point?
No, it's
No,
under
we-
state statute, the select board has full
we typically
jurisdiction.
I think it's if-
we do 1 to 2 weeks depending
Yeah.
what we're doing.
If they would change mandate to whenever practicable. I mean, I know that there are times when X happens and we need to have a town meeting, and sometimes they open and close the warrant within a couple days, just because we need to deal with one thing quickly.
Mhm.
So I just hate to say mandate, because that makes no sense in our business, in our world.
Let's say we have a special town meeting, we typically do it someplace in late November, early December, someplace between Thanksgiving and Christmas to try to pull this off. Now, we need 2 weeks, so let's say it happens the first week in December. We have to post for 2 weeks, so that pulls us back to the third week of November. And then we need at least a week to make sure we have a meeting to go through it. So the week before that brings us to the first week of November to have it written up and drawn up. So now we're going back to at least the first week in October, if not early September, to think about having a meeting in December. It's just so far out, and we don't know what's gonna come up, we're not ready for a special town.
I think whenever practicable, you could try it, but to mandate it makes no sense.
I would just say unfavorable.
I mean, it's contrary to public statute, so why would we do that?
Mhm.
I would, I move to give it an unfavorable recommendation.
A second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, that's 2 and 1.
Which one are you on?
We're on
28.
28 about the mandate. Could you deal with something if we could amend the mandate word? I mean, on
Yeah,
time.
oh, yeah, and the other thing I would
Because
also
mandate makes no
consider amending is to make it specifically for the annual town meeting too.
Oh, okay.
I think that might make it a little more,
That's a whole, yeah,
And that's things he could
so,
Yeah.
he could change that resolution on the floor because it's what they call within the same box.
yeah,
He can't say, okay, then
Right.
instead we'll say,
yeah.
let's say we want to post a Zoom meeting at the town meeting, that's outside the box. But
Yeah.
he can change the framework of
Right.
that, the wording, and then keep that.
So
They
who
don't
did
play.
unfavorable on that one?
Yeah,
I did.
unfavorable 2 to 1.
John was unfavorable.
Oh, no, I was the only one favorable.
Maureen and I were favorable, were unfavorable in our vote.
Who made the motion?
Maureen
did.
moved,
Maureen?
I seconded. Then
Okay.
Maureen and I were in favor of the unfavorable vote. Okay, Article 29. Town's financial records for all sources and uses of funds. Oh, hell no.
This is common practice for a lot of towns. I'm surprised we don't do
Put
this.
all of our accounts and everything up on the website?
All
That
of
sounds like it's-
all the payable checks, yeah. I've seen public checkbooks for towns before.
Town's financial records for all sources and uses of funds, all pertinent charts, records,
We'd have to hire somebody.
I
informative
was saying,
decorative
yeah.
regarding the town's finances to be placed online. No, I have no problem posting our warrants that we pay online.
No, no,
Once
The
we
warrants are
pay
easy.
a warrant, that's what we paid.
Right.
As far
The
as our-
checkbook is what I was thinking when I was reading.
As far as all the pertinent, there's the money that's coming in, it's approved at town meeting. That's it.
Yeah.
We have to break that down person by person with a check, and that's ridiculous. That's where our revenue sources are. They're done. And if you want to see where the money goes, we can absolutely post, if people wanted to, our,
well, not only that, a lot of this is under
warrants.
the Freedom of Information Act, if somebody wanted to ask for specific information, and even that, a lot of things.
that's not any and all, it's
Yeah,
a specific
yeah.
request for
And
each
and
thing.
there are things that have to be redacted when
Right.
you get involved in this. It's not just make a
Right.
copy of it. It's a little more sophisticated than that. So I would say, before we voted to do this, I would want to see the towns who do it, and how do they do it, and
I don't think any towns do this.
What I've seen is for use of funds. The all sources, that part. I
Which
don't
is the
know
warrants
is
we sign,
typical.
yeah. The use of funds is, every time we print a warrant, we sign it, there it is, there's the checks one. It's a page or 2 pages and post it. I have no, absolutely. And they see where the funds are going, but to ask for every transaction that comes in, you know, okay, the town clerk took in 15 dog licenses. We have to post 15 dog license fees in the town, according to this. And
Well,
then they could charge
They
for it.
probably the petitions just are not as finely and with the right detail. I mean,
They're not
I
ready
think
to be.
I think their spirit and intent makes some sense, but as written, I would make an unfavorable, I would recommend unfavorable recommendation for this.
Second.
Further dis- As written.
As written, I think it needs some adjustments
Yeah.
before it can be favorable.
Okay.
You gonna vote?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0, unfavorable. Okay, okay, here we go to the resolution to support the town of Barre voting to raise and appropriate and borrow funds, $15,000 to clean up any legal action on 1,000 West Street.
Unfavorable recommendation for me.
I think my challenge on this one, I don't know where that number comes from and if that would be sufficient if we start into this project and it does end up costing more than that. I don't know, how would we get a scope on what
We
this
don't own
project
the
would
property.
actually cost?
We don't own the
So
property.
we would need to know how much to acquire it, how much to.
Well, we're gonna acquire it for nothing. Well, we're gonna
It's
acquire
tax
it
title.
because the
Tax
taxes haven't been paid, so
Yeah,
we
we're
are
waiting to
owed
clear tax
significant
title
amount
and
of money
it's
on it.
Been tied up for years with the court because of a property line
Yeah.
dispute.
Right,
dispute.
it's been tied
Which
up
should
for
be
years for a
getting
number of reasons, but the most recent issue as of a couple of weeks ago is essentially that they're trying to determine the acreage that is described in the deed is different than the acreage that the town taxes the property for. And so basically land court is trying to determine what the right acreage is and like who is the right source of information for that. So, you know, we've sent, our assessors have been involved with that and taking care of that. But yeah, we don't own the property at this point.
And we can't get a fair assessment on what it would take to do any of this until we own it.
And we typically wouldn't. Once we own it, we would auction it, then the new buyer would come in and, the people aren't buying it to sit there and say, oh, look at that mess. They're buying it because they want to build the property and it's going to disappear. And for us to expend $15,000 may surpass what we receive in the property, which means we've lost taxes and lost revenues on top of lost taxes. You know, just completely against it.
Oh, I think that there are probably a number of these kinds of properties that exist in fact, I know that.
Probably 1 or 2 dozen of them, yeah.
Yeah, and getting these things, taking them for tax title. I mean, like you say, there's one place on Summer Street that's, you know, I can't even imagine anybody will want to purchase the land. I think we're going to be stuck with that.
Somebody will.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, sure.
That's even, I don't know. Well,
Oh, sure.
but, so I
You
know.
put a machine in, you dig
I know that
you dig
unfortunately-
that pit out of there and you build
And
a house.
unfortunately, I would say that if you live across the street from this kind of a property, it is very troubling, and the length of time this property has been, you know, under sort of this kind of level of scrutiny that we can't get the tax title for it, has been very frustrating for this individual who, you know, produced this citizen petition, so.
Quite frankly, the property looks better since the fire.
I know, but-
Than it did for the last
I
decade.
know, but still,
When he's
but
lived there
still,
all this
but
time.
That's
still.
not a great,
No, but I
great
mean,
recommendation for the
that
property.
it's,
Do we
no.
Do we have an idea of how long it's going to take to get to that point?
Land court is really tough just because
Give you
it's
the
so
short
tough to, like, we're not, obviously, there's 350 other towns that are dealing with land court and,
It's
I
been there
mean,
5 or 6 years, put it that way.
Well,
Right,
but it was
so-
just recently that we got the boundary lines straightened out, I think.
I haven't gotten confirmation that the court is okay with, we've straightened it out on our end with the best explanation that we can give, and I think it's, you know, it makes total sense, but it's gonna be dependent upon whether the court accepts that, or if they, you know, make us start all
Is there
over
any way
again,
that we can-
Probably
essentially.
pretty low priority land court considers some of the things that they're taking up.
Yeah.
So this doesn't,
Yeah, it's not kind of like
get in front
a,
of
you
the
know,
judge too quickly.
I mean,
we're not in a very linear line in land court.
And allocating this money means nothing until we actually get through land court.
Right.
Right.
Because we've discussed it, means, well, we can't do anything on property we don't own.
And certainly, I understand the frustration of this petition.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I don't think we can recommend favorable action at this time due to the fact that we don't have access to the property.
So I'd move for unfavorable on Article 30.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Okay, amend the code of the town of Barre to support the town of Barre voting to pass a bylaw regulation that the town or officers may not engage in the procuring of any loans that would exceed the life expectancy of the project or item to which the appropriation is related.
Boy, I have mixed emotions on that one.
Now, you kind of like to say, yeah.
After
that's
that ambulance, you
I
want to say,
know.
oh, hell yes. It's possible there may be special circumstances when that has to be done, and this is something that's discussed at every town meeting as it's purchased in the first place, and the town body has the right to choose what they want to do at that point. We're already discussing, usually as a responsible board, you're going to discuss whether it should be purchased out, and most of the time, you're not going to purchase something beyond its life, and I don't know why it was done that way, and I don't know why the town body approved it that way.
No, I would just.
But they have the right to do so, I think.
I would just say that what happened at that town meeting, because I can remember it distinctly, the Collins Center did this big study for the town of Barre, okay? And they basically said, you guys should just buy all this stuff on time, and you can be using all of this stuff and doing all the work you need to do. And they recommended these sort of, situations where we would borrow on a whole big chunk of stuff. I mean, you sat there at that town meeting, and they said, we want this truck for there, and this truck for that, and this, and we're just sitting there, and I was saying, really, I don't think this sounds like such a great idea, but it was a great flash and dance, and then it was voted, and now we see the remnants of it, which has nothing to do with the people sitting here or there, or probably, even on the Budget and Finance Committee. It just was, it sounded like a great idea, I guess,
It's
to
like
people.
walking into a car dealership,
Yeah.
I need a daily driver, and you walk out with a Mercedes,
sad.
what did I do that for?
Yeah,
I can't afford this.
yeah,
It's-
especially if we go to get it repaired.
I don't think we normally,
So
Yeah, my challenge.
but I
with
don't
this
think we
one
need a bylaw to say.
it seems, it makes
How-
sense.
My challenge is the life expectancy part and how vague that can be with different items.
Oh, not according to the state. They assign a life expectancy.
Well, they do, and so that's something
And we had to redefine that recently for something.
Exactly. So obviously, like, if you're gonna go buy a new Mercedes from that car dealership, and you go, well, I need my payments to be $300 a month, so I need a 12-year loan. The bank's not gonna give you a 12-year loan. So it's the same thing for here. We're not going to take a loan out for longer than we need to. We're not going to get one. But what ends up happening, as Greg mentioned, is that we end up having to come back, and the select board, under their purview, has to extend the life expectancy. So that ambulance that's only supposed to last 5 years, we had to extend the life
See, now
expectancy.
that logic just
I'm with
throws
you.
me because it doesn't actually make anything last longer.
Nope,
Oh, no,
nope, but it allows you to extend the loan.
right.
That's bizarre.
It allows us to extend the loan, and it also
is
makes the governing board recognize what they're doing.
So like I said, I have mixed emotions.
I'm with you.
I generally am not gonna recommend that we buy anything when a loan passes life expectancy.
My concern comes up with in the future when there aren't, if, it comes to a situation where there aren't responsible people on the board again.
Well, and it also comes down to the town body has the right to vote at town meeting how they want. And
Right.
this restricts future town bodies from voting how they feel. And I don't think that's a wise idea either. I don't want to tell future people how they can and can't vote on something. If they have good cause and reason for it.
I mean, it makes a colossal
Hey,
amount of sense.
We want to buy this fire truck now at $700,000. It's gonna cost us for a lot of years, and, we can take a 50-year loan and afford it. We'll pay it off before then, but if we wait 2 years, it's $1.4 million. So they wanna buy it now, and that can happen because the expense is gonna go up so much that if you don't do it now, it's gonna cost you
But,
Now, here's the
way
question.
more in the future.
Wouldn't a town in the future be able to override this
Of
at a
course,
town?
absolutely.
But then it would take 2/3 instead of majority.
Just
So it's essentially just creating a higher
they
threshold.
make a motion to
approve.
rescind Article 31 from the June
Right.
14th meeting of 2022, and it's gone.
Yep.
Done.
So essentially, this would just be creating a higher threshold that you'd have to meet in order to do that spending, essentially.
Yeah, but I think it's pointless, because if you do want to rescind it, they can just go ahead and rescind it and do it. I for one, like I said, I'm mixed about it. I won't spend it anyway, so it really doesn't matter, I don't want to. But if the need came up, you know, let's say they've said that fire engine is a 10-year life.
Mhm. You can still-
It's gotta be in service for 20 years, it's gonna have a 20-year life, period. So you can break that down to $35,000 a year, that's pretty affordable. And that's the option we have. We can say, you know what, we go to a bond company, we take a bond out, and we're gonna pay $35,000 to $38,000 a year, and extend it over 20 years and break it down, instead of the 10-year. NFPA recommends 5 and 5 years. Technically, it's got a 5-year life. I don't wanna pay another 4 a year on it. I mean, $130,000 a year on it. And this would restrict us to that.
Because this would restrict us to what the state says life expectancy is, not the manufacturer.
Right, the NFPA says a fire engine should have 5 years and be retired. We run 20.
And the life expectancy is closer to 20, so it's
Realistic.
just a challenge of different versions of what the life expectancy is on different.
Right, so let's say this passes, then this board says, I move we extend the life expectancy of that engine to 20 years, and it passes. Now we can bond it
Well,
anyways.
I just indicate that.
You can always sidestep
In
it
order
as a
to
board.
incur the amount of debt like that the fire truck, it's a 2/3 vote as it is. I just,
But you can always sidestep it. If this passes, the board can always sidestep it by extending the life of anything we want. You know what?
So it's not,
I want to extend the life of this paperclip. I move we extend the life of this paperclip to 16 years. And I want to put it in a shelf in the lobby and see if it lasts that long.
well,
We can, it's stupid. We can do it.
it isn't,
So
it isn't what we'd like to do.
No, but what I'm saying is a board, to answer your question, a board in the future could do exactly that. Extend the life of anything they want and then vote and extend the loan on it.
Yeah. Well, then we're going to have
So
to argue.
it doesn't really restrict.
Well, the life expectancy would have to be something that is probably so limited, we would be unable, if the state said fire truck is worth five years, we would never buy a fire truck ever. 'cause
Our
we-
ambulance-
as long as the
Put
state's
it this way.
defining what it is.
Yeah.
it's
Our
not
ambulance is gone.
optional for
Right.
us.
It's out of service, it's gone, but we still have a useful life on our books because
Yeah.
we have to justify the loan we're paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's another reason to pay that dang thing off
Yeah.
now.
mhm.
But
Okay,
we had to extend the
so
life expectancy.
Do we have a recommendation for,
I have unfavorable. I move we go unfavorable on it.
I'll second that.
further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of unfavorable?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0.
Wasn't it fun?
Okay.
But
Okay,
yes,
But as long as the state's the one defining it, I don't.
I get frustrated because some of these things I just know what I gotta know, but.
okay, we have a couple things here to take care of as well. We have fuel procurement award. We need to vote on the bids that came in through Central Mass Regional Planning. I believe we're in a consortium for those votes. You can see basically the unleaded gasoline, diesel fuel, and
It's a-
propane.
These are markups too, off
Yeah.
the New York Pier.
Yeah. So in other words, wherever the New York Pier says it's 65 cents more for unleaded gas, and diesel fuel is $1.60 more for whatever, and the pier price obviously is quite flexible. I
Yeah.
don't know, fluid, shall we say, to just stay in the right. I mean, I don't think we've got a whole lot of choice, do we?
At this point, so I went through a regional bid this year just because I
Right.
knew what
And these were the
we
low
were
bids.
facing. These were the low bids. They did not get any fuel oil bids and they had to
I
rebid
bet.
it because at this point, the market is just so scary that nobody is bidding for it.
Well, it's not much different than diesel fuel, so I expect it should have come in around there, but,
Well, I'd move we accept Joe Cody for both unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel, and Myron, I can't read it, Trilio,
Surely, yeah, sounds good.
for the propane.
I would second that. Any further discussion? Do we have enough of our, built into our budget for all of this?
So it depends. I did budget a little bit more, but I also have the hope that the prices will come back down
A little
a little
bit?
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't see this
See
as
what
being
happens in midterm
sustainable.
elections.
I think, well, I don't know.
Well, I just
It
think,
may move
like,
things.
we can
I hope
if
so.
we can get through the summer and see what happens,
Well,
Give it
yeah,
another year and a half before things settle out.
I agree.
I guess.
A year and a half from now?
Typically, you know.
Well,
well, I think fuel heating oil
Even 2
is going to be a
years, 'cause-
challenge for families as well as for
Yeah.
for the community, but,
Right.
Um,
I think, you know, we already have the intention of going back to a special town meeting potentially, depending on, you know, what happens with the school budget and whatnot. We already have the potential to go back to a special town meeting, so I think we can reassess at that point where we are. Obviously, we won't have any heating oil expenses by that time, or not very much. But we can reassess at that point and add what we need to.
we have a motion made and seconded to accept the procurement award as demonstrated in the written document we have before us. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay. EMS Uncollectibles, I assume we need to vote to do what?
So
Don't
this,
see that. Where is that here on the paper?
That is number C, right?
No, we don't have, do we have documentation?
No, I
for
don't
it?
see any.
all of the documentation that I received has everybody's personal information on it, so it
Okay.
would not be able to be read into the record, but
So
these
as,
are.
as we've done in the past, is there are certain funds that are billed by, the fire department has hired a billing company that
Right.
bills the people for ambulance services. And they make certain amount of attempts to bill and write letters and do other things. And these are bills that they reasonably feel are absolutely uncollectible.
Yep.
And to spend further money chasing bad money, you know, sending good money after bad, as they say. So at the point where they recommend writing them off, that typically, we've agreed to write them off.
Yep, so this is our collecting agency, they receive a portion of everything that they collect. So there's skin in the game for them to go after this money, and this is just money that they've, you know, either people have passed away and there's no next of kin to, you know, there's just.
They moved out of state, they just.
Yep, they're just not
can't find them.
responsive. I mean, there's any number of reasons, but this money is just not collectible after, I believe it's a 2-year cycle that they,
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
yeah, they do every 2 years, they come to the town with stuff that needs to be written off to basically give the collection agency permission to stop going after these people.
Put some focus in.
So we need a motion to, for the uncollectibles, the EMS approval, to write that amount of money off.
I move to write off the EMS uncollectible amount.
Of $218,171. Any further discussion? Hearing none? Those-
I did not second it, because I'm gonna stay out, just.
Geez, you are really hands-off. Okay.
Oh, I just,
Okay.
technicalities, I don't wanna cause us trouble with technicalities.
Those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, and we have one abstention.
So you second?
Yes, I do, yeah.
I just, you know,
We have
I'll
marijuana
explain it
license
later.
renewals, looking for a vote for High Hawk Farm and for Caregiver Patient Connection. These are,
Yeah, so this is like something that the town, as a part of having marijuana licenses in town, they require the select board to issue an annual license, kind of like how we do for the liquor licenses and the common vics. The issue is that a process was never created in order to renew these licenses. So, High Hawk Farm actually just reached out to me like 2 weeks ago and said, hey, do we ever get an updated license? I said, oh, I totally forgot that we did that because we have no process.
did we establish a license fee we charged them?
Nope. There was no license fee, there's no renewal paperwork. So this is something that has been
Right,
discussed in the past, but
I can enlighten a little bit. The reason we did the annual renewal is just, there's a 3-year host community agreement. And that agreement is done between the board and the marijuana facility, kind of governing, agreeing upon how they're gonna conduct business, what type of operations they will and won't have, lighting, sound, water intrusion in and out of the facility. A lot of things we cover for safety, building and stuff. And then beyond that, it goes to state standards, how it's constructed, how it's monitored, and the planning board has covered where they can be and types of structure they can have, and obviously, building department covers all the inspections. But it comes up in agreement with us with what type of contribution they make to the town, and what type of things we expect them to do in order to get a license and our support for that license. So once that agreement has been reached, then they can go back to the state and ask for a license, go through and get all the sign-offs of the town departments. And we decided the final step, that when everything else is done, is they will come back to us for their license. And that's an annual renewable license, which just gives us an opportunity to address things if we need to. And I see no need to address anything. We haven't had any complaints. There was worry about complaints for odor, worry about
Yeah.
complaints for sound,
Yeah.
light, carbon monoxide, you name it, concerns from the sewer department about nitrates, and all these concerns we've been at. Luckily,
We're
we've
lucky.
had absolutely nothing come up for complaints, concerns, or problems from anybody about anything. So.
So what would it be the effective date of the renewal? July 1st?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we renew both licenses for High Hawk Farm and Caregiver Patient Connection.
Effective July 1st?
Right. And they have to go through an annual
The state.
procedure anyways
they
with the
still have to-
state,
right.
which includes me in giving some input to them anyways, so it's like, this is kind of redundant, but
the
we'll
state's
create a
heavily
process
involved.
for it.
Okay. We have a second?
I did.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay, going to personnel. We have finally, subsequent to negotiations, a library director who's been named, and also now the salary has been agreed upon at $58,000, and we would move approval if that is the will of the board.
I move approval.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, 3-0. Okay, use of town property, a vote looking for making opportunities count, the date on June 25. I know we talked about this at a previous meeting.
The previous one was a different.
Oh, it
Yeah,
was?
It was knuckle bones.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
these,
Oh, okay,
did you go,
This
did
is
you
for-
take your
this is
kids
for
to
us.
it?
This
Story.
is for a story walk in
Right.
common, which
Yeah.
they do typically, so
Yeah.
These are good times.
I move that we accept the request to use town property by making opportunities counts, story walk, which would include the waiver of any fees for them.
I'd second.
further discussion? Hearing none? Vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Okay.
There's no fees.
No fees. Do we have any other? I think we're good to move on. Old business, nothing on the agenda for this evening. We need now to contemplate moving into executive session.
I would move we enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A, to conduct strategy of deprivation for negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically the police chief. And we will come out of this possibly to make an announcement and then adjourn.
Second.
Okay,
Hold on, let them finish their business.
Oh, I thought you did it.
no, we need to go to roll call. Those in favor?
Dixon, yes.
Sullivan, yes?
Marshall, yes?
Okay, good. Nice job.
Thanks, Sam. Copy.
Nice
gonna make
job
some
to the
copies.
select board, and a nice job Sandy as well.
Wait till we're